RoboNation series. I'm Katie Klotz, Community Manager here at RoboNation, and I'm excited you're spending your afternoon with us. If you missed last week, Project Manager David Young and Project Design Engineer Jamie Barnes introduced the brand new GoSense sensor kit and gave a deep dive into everything you need to know. That session is up on our YouTube channel if you want to check it out later. Today, we're shining a spotlight on the fantastic GoSense resources developed by our DoD STEM Ambassadors, Derek Ratchford and Carlos Gonzalez. Derek got things started with GoSense last year, and Carlos is stepping in to take the program even further. These two educators are part of the DoD STEM Ambassador program, a nationwide initiative managed by the TGR Foundation in partnership with the Department of Defense STEM Education Consortium, or DSEC. The TGR Foundation, founded by Tiger Woods, is dedicated to empowering students, especially those in underserved communities, through innovative STEM education programs and professional development for educators. DSEC connects academic, industry, and government partners to advance STEM outreach and workforce readiness. We are so lucky to have Derek and Carlos representing RoboNation in this amazing program. So let's kick things off. Derek and Carlos, the floor is yours. And remember, everyone, the chat is open, so drop your questions anytime. We'll get to as many as we can in the end. Thank you so much, and take it away.
Well, welcome everyone to our webinar. I'm Carlos, and Derek is my counterpart as a DoD ambassador, and we're just happy to be here with you. We are educators in different places, different spaces, but using all these resources for the betterment of our students and the betterment of the course that we work with. So I guess Derek, since you're first in the slides, I guess you can go first with your spiel.
Well, I appreciate you, Carlos. I appreciate you guys letting me be here to talk about the program and what we've done. We've tried to do to help support educators. I may not be in an educator role necessarily in the classroom anymore, but education is who I am. It's the passion that drives me. I grew up in a family of educators. My mom was a teacher. She taught for 35 years, and growing up, she always told me to never be a teacher because you wouldn't make any money in that. And as I grow older, I find that's you earn something far more important than that. But still, going through my career and I earned my degree in economics, so I had no desire to be in the classroom. And I worked in banking. I worked in corporate inside of a cubicle, and found that that's not always that's not the place that's for me. But I didn't know what that was, and so my journey in education was a little bit different than a lot of people. I was coming from a business background, but I was hesitant. I first got into education as a substitute teacher, which shout out to all the substitute teachers. I think that's one of the hardest jobs in the industry, is to come into a classroom with no relationships and try to build that. But then I moved on to be a one-to-one aide, and that really changed who I am as a person and as an educator also. I got the opportunity to work with a student in a wheelchair one-to-one, and before I was hired, I was called into the district admin office, and they wanted to find out a little bit more about me and where I was at, because the student I was working with, or going to be working with, he had a terminal illness, and I didn't know what to expect when I walked into that classroom on that first day. But what I found was that young man never stopped smiling, and I made him a promise that as I go out through my educational career, I'm never going to stop making kids smile. I'm never going to try. Made him a promise that I would keep trying to innovate and be that teacher that students like him need. And through education, I've had the opportunity to really connect with kids in a different way because of that and what he opened up to me. STEM, I was able to teach a STEM class for 8 years. We did everything from 3D printing to virtual reality to microcontrollers. STEM was embedded in what we did. It's a program called EAST Initiative. And through that program, my students were able to identify problems in their community and then try to solve them using technology. And that was really my first opportunity to really put technology to work in the field and try to use it as citizen science to make a difference. And that love for what I saw my kids do to where I am now really impacted everything from a STEM standpoint. I saw students, one of my students 3D print his own leg. I saw a student use LiDAR scanning in underwater ROVs to map riverbeds because her father passed away in a kayak accident. From there, I got to connect with National Geographic and got to travel with as a Grover Teacher Fellow to the Galapagos, and then kind of came back and got connected with RoboNation, and now I moved on to a different kind of role. I run a nature center, and I'm running an outdoor education initiative for the state of Arkansas. And what we've been able to combine with GoSense and create through citizen science and look at the lessons and curriculum. From the very beginning, my thought process is we can't give teachers more than they already have. We need to find resources and find ways to support their learning, and connect them with the outdoors, and show, but more than anything, show that education STEM is for everybody, no matter what, where, or how they do education, and we can find ways to make STEM happen in their classrooms. And so it's been an honor to work with RoboNation and the team there through this ambassadorship, DoD STEM, what we've learned and what we've created as a cohort across the network, whether that's through RoboNation or the other DSEC partners. Just seeing our cohort create and innovate and bring STEM to the nation in unique ways all across it has been really impactful for me as we continue to grow. And I look forward to seeing what Carlos does in his year with DoD STEM and what he's looking to create with RoboNation as well.
Awesome, Derek. It's pretty cool, the stuff that you do, and the proximity you have to basically a science background, playground. Goodness gracious, you get to see animals and hikes, and you've even experimented on your peg alligator, right? Right, you put the sensor to your alligator, right?
I do have a very unique position right now. I work with state agency on wildlife management, and so I get to go in unique and cool places all the time. I put GoSense to the test. We really put it out in the field. We collected data with it. We tested it in a variety of ways. Throughout this process, I took it into a bear's den, but not just to take it into a bear's den. I really wanted to collect data on that bear's den was uniquely located within a controlled burn area, and so I was wanting to know about air quality and what happens with the animals and the health of those baby bears as they're coming on. But also, I really wanted to bring that learning and those questioning techniques to educators, to students, and so we've got to do that. I took it to the Dominican Republic with a group working with coral reef restoration. I've taken it into caves, wild caves, commercial caves, comparing data. This morning, I went on a hike, a 3-mile hike, and collected data along the way as we were trying to create some virtual reality content for students in Arkansas that I hope to share nationwide and try to create our resources and provide those for teachers everywhere.
That sounds really cool and really exciting. So I'm coming from a different part of the world. I mean, I hang out with fake animals instead of real animals, as you see in the picture. So yes, I am a STEM ambassador this year, and just to give all of you an idea of what I do and where I'm coming from for this ambassadorship and this work with RoboNation. I have a very interesting job. If I go for a hike, it's among the neighborhood. So, but I have a very interesting job in the sense that I get to work in different educational spaces. Is the best way that I could put it. My background is in education, but before that, I was an engineer. I was a systems engineer, and I looked at project systems and manufacturing lines to try to make them more efficient before I transitioned to this role as an educator. So I have a different background. That picture is from our society, the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers National Conference, which is a gathering of engineers and other STEM professionals in STEM. And I get to take students to that conference and to engage with not just other engineers in the network, but also companies and such like that are in that space. But yeah, so that's kind of where I came from. I wasn't after I left my engineering position, or forced out, more like it. Layoffs happen by as all of you may know, but I found myself in a high school classroom teaching mathematics, which was a lot of fun, but also very frustrating because a lot of students, I found out really quick, they don't like math. They just don't like mathematics. They have this aversion for math. They have this aversion for numbers, and it was kind of frustrating for me when I was in the classroom. But as the time went by, I got better at communicating math better to them and teaching that better. And I transitioned to a job over at the university working in the STEM space for a program called MESA, the Mathematics, Engineering, Science Achievement Program that works across the different educational landscapes. So who do I work with now? I work with K-12 students, facilitating enrichment and opportunities, there's competitions, camps, events. So RoboNation and the programming that they do really fit well into the stuff and the programming that we do. We've been working with CPERCH for many years, helping to run the regional event for over 14 years over in our region, among other STEM competitions that we do. So I am a STEM enabler, right? If there is an initiative that comes our way, we're going to support it, whether it be, we have an initiative, one of our counties, combat robotics, where they 3D print robots and then they destroy each other. What a thing, right? You know, all these hours 3D printing and then you destroy each other. But combat robotics, what's cool about that competition is that's very cost effective. It costs $100 a kit, a lot less than your first competitions. But that's what we do. We facilitate those opportunities for our students, for our teachers. We curate and deliver STEM curriculum and training for curriculum that has to do with STEM. So it's a lot of fun to do that. I work with teachers. I love working with teachers and educators. That's kind of in my background, and it's a lot of fun to, like Derek was saying, not to make their life harder, but to make their life easier by giving them more that they can do with students. I'm of the vein that teachers don't need another thing to do. They need compliments. They need things that are gonna help them in what they're doing and complement their work, especially when it comes to teaching science, teaching math. The question is always, how can I make their lives better through this STEM work? And I work with college cohorts, as I mentioned. I advise students, I work with engineering students, and I want them to become successful engineers, successful professionals. Because a lot of students that I work with, they're from traditionally underserved backgrounds. So these exposures are sometimes the only exposures they have to this world of engineering and the world of STEM. Which is also powerful what Derek does, because for a lot of students, they've probably never seen science and mathematics done in that way, or seen those direct applications of things in the classroom. And when students see that, it really opens their eyes to possibilities, to new things. And with the college students I work with, they've been on that journey. Someone exposed them at some point in middle, sometimes as young as elementary school. A light flickered inside of them that they wanted to do this, and no one's ever taught them that. No one's ever shown them that. But a light flickered, something happened, they were impacted by something, and they pursue these careers. And it's great to see students go through that journey to become the engineers and scientists, if that's where they go, and to be successful in that area. Being a STEM ambassador has so far been great, because there's so many connections to these different areas that I work with. And we're definitely looking forward to accomplishing the projects that we're going to accomplish through the STEM ambassadorship that have to do with data. But I did want to share a few things that I think were kind of just burning after a session that we did last month. So you go to the next slide. I mentioned about mathematics and relevancy, right? I mean, when I was in the math classroom, it was just very frustrating to me to see how students just hated math. And, you know, why is all this stuff important, right? Like, why is exploring data science? Why is data important? Why are numbers important, right? Derek gets the opportunity to actually show students what it actually means, that to show in the environment where he's in, with the creatures that he works with. But a lot of students still have this disconnect as understanding why things are important. If you go to the next slide, like I said, when I was in the math classroom, students just hated. They had this aversion for math and numbers. Why do they hate it? Well, some of them thought they were just bad at math, right? There's a perception that, you know, I was never good at it. Because I was never good at it, I can never become good at it, right? they go to that point of oh, go back. I'm still on the other side talking about some of these things. Back. Oh no, that's the end. But a lot of students just they're frustrated with math, and they're frustrated with and they've been like that for years, and they're embarrassed that they struggle in mathematics, and they struggle in doing calculations and tables and things like that. But a big and that's just years and years of frustration. But really, the big thing that I found was that they see math as something that's completely isolated and not something they use every day. They just see it as, oh, this is just a subject I'm not good at. But with these tools that RoboNation is providing, if we go to the next slide, we kind of build that bridge, because we show them that and I think that data science and exploring data and citizen science, it's a bridge to relevancy. It makes that ready connection to a real life, to real world. When they create a table, and that table has its data points are how much food a creature ate, or the levels of, I mean, these are actual things you could see, things you can feel. So a lot of the things that platforms like GoSense bring is that relevancy that I think is so important for our kids to kind of see when it comes to data science. Go to the next slide real quick. It's when kids can experience. Okay, go ahead.
Before you go to the next slide, I think that is a right on par with what we see also in the science world and STEM careers also. They lack confidence in a lot of ways. They don't see themselves as that. And the more we provide and put those in those situations, I personally do not feel that any kid or any subject area can't incorporate STEM, and because really at the heart of what we do is STEM is teaching kids how to think. So finding ways to connect them, and with kind of what we do in the curriculum we've been trying to work on this year is it's for every classroom. We can tie in those math concepts and math standards into music class, into a PE class, and bringing those mathematics skills to where they feel comfortable at. And I think that's been a really important part of this journey for this year. Also, is how do we tear down those barriers and those and build up that confidence in an area where they really tend to shine. And for us, that has all been around conservation. But in reality, what we're really teaching them how to do is to look at a problem, look at data, and make some conclusions. And how does that tie into math? How does that tie into science? How does that tie into your literacy, being able to explain your thinking? And from the PE perspective, just getting out there and doing it and collecting that data, being active and getting in the outdoors. I think it's really important that we portray the message that GoSense is for every classroom and for every teacher. Data collection is for every classroom, every teacher, every student, because it is so important in how we make connections to the real world, just by asking the right types of questions and analyzing the problems in a different way. And so we can go on to the next slide, and I'll let you continue your conversation.
No, I mean that's really what our STEM worlds are about. Is about connections, and it's about taking students out of their traditional ideas of what science and math is to something they can feel, something they can see. In the STEM world, it's also when you're building something, it's tactile, it's there. When you could look at a page of data forever, but if you're out there experiencing it, I mean, you're outdoors, you're feeling the wind, you're smelling the smells, it does something really to our students. And it's great to be able to facilitate those types of opportunities for our students, and not just out in the wilds of Arkansas, but where I live and where I do my work. I'm in and I should mention that so I'm in Southern California, and I'm where it hardly ever rains, and it just rained, and we're just kind of crazy. We don't know what to do with all this stuff here in California. But I live in an area called the Inland Empire, which is a region of California that is about an hour east of Los Angeles, and it encompasses two counties, two very large counties as far as land are concerned. I think San Bernardino County might be the biggest county in the contiguous United States. It's a huge county. But also these two counties at Riverside, San Bernardino, we have over almost 4 million people living out here in this area. So we have this mix of urban and suburban here in where I'm at. So a lot of what my work is to bring relevance to these students that are in these a lot of times they're in very urban environments, sometimes they're in suburban environments, and make those bridges, connect them to the real world, even in when they feel that they can't see the relevancy, even though STEM and science is still all around them. Go to the next slide. So yeah, relevancy is everything, and data is everywhere. I mean, it really is. Derek, you made a great point. I think a tool like GoSense can be applied to any classroom because you can find data in so many places, and you can understand it at the different levels. And yes, you don't have to do these crazy analysis that you do at the college level, but honestly, you can't even get there without really getting appreciation for other numbers and what they tell you in the weather, right? I mean, gosh, that affects all of us, right? In sports, even in the classroom itself. Like I like that picture there because that was a teacher that said, you know what, we're gonna just in my classroom, I want my students to see all the data and the data analysis that exists just in this classroom, just by taking track of attendance. So it can be as simple as that, but if the idea is that students experience data and numbers. And the awesome thing, and why it's such a big deal now, I mean, these numbers have been around everywhere, is because the tools have gotten powerful to analyze data. So you go to the next slide. I mean, now it's like you can find, gosh, you can analyze data. There's so much out there that affects us now and is based on data. Everything, I mean, weather is, you could track weather. They track it now to the hour. And they track everything from allergen levels to humidity, and it's not hard to find. And sports, I mean, for some kids, sports speaks to them, right? And if they play in any league or in any type of organized sport, data is huge. Everything's tracked. Everything's tracked in sports. From if you're playing football, from things like simple things like tackles and stuff like that, or a completion percentage, but even more things right now that they track in sports, or value over replacement, all these other data numbers that are important and are based on data. And kids have these devices called phones. They have ways that phones aren't all evil, right? They have some tools there that they could use. And of course, everyone shops, and most people now are shopping online, and they use a whole bunch of data driven tools to get us to buy more and more and more things. But we have tools like GoSense. I mean, gosh, when I was in the classroom, even when I was in the classroom, it's been like 15, 20 years now. It's been a while. And we didn't have tools like that, we didn't have platforms that are measuring data. We didn't have tools like that. For us to get tools like that, we had to kind of go to a college campus or spend an inordinate amount of money to get the tools that we have now. But we have tools, technology, platforms to be able to really to see data, analyze data, and to really get a greater appreciation of numbers. And that's what we want for our kids. What's the Africa? What's the did I put another slide in there? See what's the next thing? So
before you do that though, Carlos, I really think data is everywhere. We in the educational classroom, we use data to track student success. We are tracking it constantly. And yes, we can find that in a lot of places, but the power in what we do and the power of connection in the classroom is through experience and language collected themselves. And you can't replicate that. And looking at it and comparing data from each region of the country and tying in GIS locations and and the spatial technologies to look at and compare and really get them thinking about what that data means to them. And I think that's where your learning happens, is whenever they go out and they do the citizen science and they collect that data, and then they have a tangible and logical connection to their learning. And I think that's how we tear down those barriers. And then we use those other tools that are out there that collect that additional data and create layers and maps and look at connections that are really important for kids to see. But what I really wanted to drive home today is what this tool allows our teachers to do. And we've worked on some. I mean, even from UV index and temperature, those two basic things that the AirSense can do, you can manipulate those things and really drive home some questioning just by letting the kids go outside and collect and hold it in the sun. And see what the difference is from day to day. How does that weather, and you talked about weather a while ago, and then come back and look at the different things on their computers, but getting them outside, feeling that sun and feeling that temperature, and how that really reads to them is more than just numbers. It's the tangible aspects that then that experience drives home that learning. And I really love that from the GoSense perspective, what that provides to students to really enhance learning. That's just taking STEM to a whole nother level from the building side of the sea perch to the logical thinking, project-based learning, and the hands-on approach to really providing a new and different avenue for kids to learn and connect with STEM. And I think that's really important for us as educators, but also for our students. And you talked about what you do with college level. This is a pathway that our industry needs, and how we can teach kids these skills are necessary for their futures. We talk all the time about we're preparing them for jobs that don't exist yet, and this is how we do that: teaching them how to think, how to make connections, how to collect and logically determine if something makes sense. And that's a test taking skill, that's a thinking skill, that's a life skill. And so when admin comes in and how are you preparing your students, we're doing it through experience-based learning, we're doing it through collection, we're doing it through hands-on learning. And I love that RoboNation has that as a foundation of who they are and what they believe in is important for students. And this is just one other tool to get us there as educators.
For sure. And it is interesting to see that at the college level with these students, and the reality that because of how far technology has come and where we're at in the space right now, I mean, goodness, if students can get proficient at these skills, at data measurement, there's careers, there's jobs, there's careers that continue in areas that continue to grow and develop, and students can really have a future in information systems and data science. It's really the sky's the limit now. But they have to start somewhere, and I think tools like GoSense, so that's the next slide, are just powerful tools to get students as simple as getting them outside the classroom. And I know, like, for example, where we're at, where I'm at, we have schools that, yes, they're not the ideal. There's schools that there's a lot of kids in the school, a lot of kids in the classrooms. And a lot of times these kids just need a reason. They need a reason to go out. They need a reason to go out to the park that's next to their school, or a reason to go to the mountains. We're surrounded by mountains in my region. And a lot of these kids have never gone to those mountains. They don't go up there. But to see them, to see those forests that they see every day with a new perspective, to understand, to ask questions and to wonder about, how did that forest fire we had last year, how did that affect the wildlife in that region? How did it affect the air quality? All these types of questions you can explore them with these types of tools.
Yeah, and I've had quite a while to explore with these tools before they even came on the market. And what I can tell you is what I love most about them is they are so easy to use. The data is easy to collect. You literally just press that record button on that GoSense Air, and you get all that data, and you can put it into a map that GoSense provides to visualize your data. But also, I love that both of these two sensors are applicable to anywhere in the nation, any classroom, anywhere you go. We in my full-time job and with my position, we do a lot of water quality stuff, and we require students to go out and test water. And oftentimes I hear we don't have any bodies of water around us. How are we going to do that? And you were just talking about the rain in California. The marine sensor can work in a ditch for runoff, and you can look at data. You don't have to have an ocean or a pond or a lake to do that. It can read any type of water. We did testing in a water fountain to look at different things, and so I love the usability, the ease of both of these sensors to really get kids thinking, and the lessons and opportunities that we have to create useful curriculum resources that tie into high quality instructional materials for educators that really tie into their curriculum standards already. And it's not one more thing. It's just an added bonus to their learning. It's just genius in terms of how easy it is to utilize and work in the classroom, especially for the price point to collect that data. But like I said, I've had some opportunities to use them and play around with them. Battery life alone sets it apart for me. I can go on an all-day hike and just have that recording in my backpack, and I take it everywhere I go and hit record before I start in the field, and that's just important data for me to look at. And like you said, bringing in other sources to compare and create layers and think about how did elevation impact this, and how did the UV impact this habitat in this area. But just having it with me, having it for collection of data, but also when you put it in a teacher's hands and they can see that on the screen and track that data right there in them, we can manipulate a lot of and do some cool science experiments just in the classroom with how easy these tools are to use.
Awesome. So, wow, we've said a lot about the uses for this, but just for educators, whether you're out in a state park or a regional park, or you're out in the middle of the city, there are so many ways to engage. So our encouragement is just to get your hand on some of these tools and engage with them. Your community, wherever it's at, there's environmental concerns of different sorts. It could be wildlife concerns, or like in my area, one of the big concerns in my area is the reality that our air quality is not that great. We have in this area, where the logistics capital of the state, if not the country, we have more large warehouses and more transportation hubs than you can count. Amazon lives out here. You have basically Amazon hubs within miles of each other in my region. How does that, questions like that kids see that, they experience that. It causes all the traffic that we have to drive through. So how does that impact, right? The air you're breathing, how does that impact other aspects of the environment? So, gosh, the sky's the limit with this. So just encourage you all to just engage in these tools and the resources, and it'll definitely make learning, heighten your learning, but make things a lot more fun.
Speaking of resources, what we really want to do is for any teacher anywhere to be able to pick up this and utilize it. And so I think the team at RoboSense has done a great job. RoboNation has done a great job on the AirSense curriculum that you can find on their website. You can look at that curriculum. My impact project with the Department of Defense STEM Ambassadorship that we've done this year has really been focused on developing additional curriculum, and there's a lot more to come. But we can drop a link in for you to access where you can get some of our curriculum and take a look at what's happening with our curriculum development and one thing I really want to focus on as we continue developing curriculum is how we connect kids around the globe. Yes, a lot of our curriculum that we have right now that I've developed are tied into Arkansas students and experiences that we can provide with students in Arkansas. But also, it's really important to get our kids thinking about the world as a whole, especially when you're thinking about the Department of Defense careers and careers in general and where that can take them in life. How do we compare data around the globe? How do we look at California versus Arkansas, and how do we create lessons and curriculum that ties us all together? Because I think that's really important for our students to understand too. The world is a big place, but also from a data standpoint, it's also a pretty fascinating place to look at too. But we can definitely. I would love to work with you guys individually and look at lessons and how we can utilize those. What I don't want is a tool to be developed for student use and then not be used in classrooms to empower learning. And so if there's ever an opportunity, I can work with you guys. That's just more learning for me, and I really like to learn and have experiences myself. So we have developed some units for you to implement this right away into your classrooms. And you can access those through a website that I created through our Department of Defense Ambassador program. But also we're going to be releasing a lot of those lessons that we had not put on into a template and released just yet. We'll be releasing those later on, and I would love to kind of continue releasing those through RoboNation and everything that and your outlets. But also, I would love to drop my information in the chat and let you guys connect with me personally. I'm always open to chat and connect with teachers around the globe and hear the exciting things that they're doing with data collection, with STEM learning. That makes me a better educator and makes me a better curriculum developer for my teachers here in Arkansas. So feel free to reach out and also about the program that we just went through and that Carlos is just starting out. It's a powerful program for educators. It's a powerful way to connect with people from around that have like interests as you. You're never gonna get bored with a group from DoD STEM. They are passionate in what they do, and they're always looking to learn and improve. And so, I encourage every one of you to apply for that program and connect with the Department of Defense STEM. Their resources are phenomenal, but also the DSEC partners like RoboNation. There's others just as phenomenal around the globe that are doing great things. And so, I encourage you as an educator to check out what's out there and connect with this program in new and exciting ways, and just wait for what else is to come through as we continue growing the program.
Thank you both so much for all of this. This has been just such a wonderful hour. You have shared so many amazing things, and we really, really appreciate it. We do have a couple of questions if you have time. And the first one is, Derek, can you provide some specifics about how you incorporate GoSense into your work?
Yeah, I can. But before I do, let me kind of preface this by saying that I was in the classroom and I'm not anymore. And even from the time I started with the program, my position has changed. I ran a nature center where we were impacting students through basically a field trip setting style with 120 kids per day on average, getting them out into the outdoors and hiking and camping and doing our 5 program areas were on wildlife, hiking, camping, outdoor recreation. We did caving and we did water quality, and we also do some fishing. So my position now in Arkansas has changed a little bit, and our governor announced in June that we really want to focus on outdoor education for all students and create a pathway for careers in outdoor education at the high school level. And now I'm getting to manage that and create what that looks like for the state. And so my goal is to support educators. I have 65 schools across the state that are signed on for my cohort. We're developing classroom resources and curriculum for them. And so my job is to develop curriculum that they get to implement in their classroom. And that really does involve GoSense and data collection. I don't want to provide a lesson and ask them to go out and do something that I haven't tried, or ask them to provide resources that they have to go outside of and collect before a lesson. And so it's funny you asked that question. I actually spent my morning this morning. I was up really, really early. I'm trying to create a virtual scenario, a virtual world through VR, where you can hike across Arkansas and see unique things through a virtual lens, but also get up close and personal with some of our geographical history, our ecoregions. We are one of the only states that have alligators and elk, and they're on opposite ends of the state. And so we're trying to highlight what's happening in our state. And so I went out and did some VR content and recording this morning. And like I said earlier, everywhere I go, I put my GoSense in my backpack, and that's just data that I get to create a lesson and unit around to compare that data. I was within 10 feet from a huge bluff hanging off the edge, and then I came down the hill and I was within 20 yards of an elk. And so we got to collect that data on GoSense. But what's really cool is I get to now create a lesson and let kids look at that data, and then they can go out and collect their own. And that's kind of the heart of the lesson is how does where they are compare to our ecoregions around the state, and look at that information. And data collection is a huge part of that, but also citizen science, and let them identify problems and collect their own data to try and solve them. So from a science standpoint and what we do here from a curriculum resource, there should be data tied to everything. In our world, like I said earlier, conservation is at the heart of what we do, and you can't make conservation decisions without data. We really have to focus on habitat research, wildlife management, and that data drives that. And so we're trying to teach kids how to drive conversations and decision making through data. And so that's how I've been using it. I did a really fun lesson with some students. I took them in Arkansas. We have a place called Rush, and it was an old mining town. And so we went into some mining caves, then we went into some wild caves, and we went into some commercial caves. And they had to collect data from each of them, from the dark zones of all three of those sections, and compare and contrast and see what it looks like. And so GoSense was instrumental in collecting a lot of that data, and from a marine sensor to an air sensor both. But yeah, we try to get out into unique places and provide kids with experiences, and data is what really, from an admin standpoint, what sells it. We learning is happening everywhere we go. It's not just for fun. We have reasonings for once to conserve and protect.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We had another question about becoming a DoD STEM ambassador. And to that person, I can give a little more information in the chat, but on the whole, what have you thought of that experience?
For me on that one, I value connection. I value people and perspective, and there is something magical about the program and connecting with people that are so passionate about what they do, so unique. I've been a part of a few cohorts and fellowships in my past, and they all have that same sense, but not to this level. We have people who, in our cohort, she was phenomenal. Her name was Caitlin, and she was in the military. She was on flight decks for 28 years, and then she changed careers. And so now she's part of the program, and she's a classroom teacher that does drones in the classroom. And being able to learn from people like that have not only the education experience, but also the career experience, life experience is really important. But also with the DSEC partners, there's so many unique ones around the country that it provides with a whole new perspective in what you're trying to create, what you're trying to do and impact your kids. And so my experience has, it's been incredibly cool to be a part of this organization and this cohort, to learn from each other, to share resources, to connect our kids from different parts of the country together to do and go and present and learn from each other. Like there's something special about that. And so I highly encourage anyone to try and to do this program.
Yeah, definitely. It's an opportunity that comes along. And you do have to, and there's an application process to go for that, for the to be selected as a ambassador. I know for me, it's just been like Derek said, the power of networks, right? A lot of our work is done in partnership. Meaningful STEM work sometimes takes lots of people, takes lots of partners to do it, and definitely as an ambassador, it kind of opens up what your view as to all the other people that are doing the type of work that you're doing, the type of work that you're supplementing, especially when it comes to the DoD portfolio, the DSEC partners, so the Department of Defense, right, and then the organizations that are aligned with the Department of Defense and STEM education. Just that network is pretty huge. It encompasses organizations like RoboNation and so many others that are doing this great work, and to connect with them is fantastic. But also as an educator, if you're a teacher, if you're out there, just to be completely honest, you do need to find like-minded people sometimes, and the work isn't easy. It's not easy to do what you do in the classroom and to be in there with those kids day after day after day after day after day after day with their 6-7ing and all the craziness. You need a support network. You need to see other people doing what you're doing. And in this ambassadorship, I've seen that. I've seen there's other folks across the country that have the same passion that I have for STEM, and the same passion for doing work with students. And they have so many great ideas, and they have so many great things that they're doing with their kids across the entire country, in cities and in urban areas, suburban areas. So it's great to engage with a network that is supportive, and with a network that really understands what it's like to do the work that you're doing, and really has this a passion for this STEM work that we're involved in. So it's a great thing to be involved in, and it does take, like I said, it takes you have to apply for it, yeah, and there has to be an affiliation with one of the DSEC partners, but there's a lot of those. But it's a great experience, and highly recommend that if you want to try it, that you give that when opportunity comes again, you give that a shot.
And I love that it's built on an impact project. That's what we want our kids to do, is to make a difference, and to have that as a requirement within the program, where you have to work with your DSEC partner to create something and make an impact change and impact learning for other people. That's a really cool aspect of the program and it's as a culmination, and it doesn't stop at the end of your program. It drives you to want to continue working on it, continue making an impact, and continue helping. That's also a really important feature of the program itself.
Thank you both so much. If there are any more questions in the chat, which I don't. Okay, perfect. So as our time together ends, we want to send a huge thank you to Derek and Carlos for speaking with us today and sharing the amazing things you've created to enhance this important program. We want to thank you, our community, for attending and for your thoughtful questions about GoSense. If you need more information, please visit our website, gosense.org. And thanks again, and we will see you soon.